Slow down. You're training too intensely and you need to stay in the fat burning zone. The fat burning zone is a popular and frequently encountered concept in fitness and weight loss. This zone refers to a specific range of heart rate, and it is often labeled on cardiovascular machines such as treadmills or promoted by personal trainers in workout programs. What is the fat burning zone, and should your training focus on exercising at heart rates within this zone to maximize fat loss and weight reduction? I'll be discussing this today and what I hope you will find to be another informative and interesting episode of Fitness Facts. I'm Dr. Jordan Taylor, the Undergraduate Exercise Science Program Director and an Associate Teaching Professor here at the University of Kansas. Let's dive into today's topic. So the fat burning zone is a popular theory in fitness suggesting that exercising at a specific low to moderate intensity, typically at 60 to 70% of one's maximum heart rate, is the most effective way to reduce body fat and lose weight. A side note here, if you want to estimate your individual fat burning zone, simply multiply your age by 0.7 and subtract that value from 208 to estimate your maximum heart rate. Next, multiply your estimated maximum heart rate by both 60% and 70% to establish a target heart rate range associated with your fat burning zone. The idea of training strictly in this zone appeals to many people because it is based on the idea that at these heart rate intensities, the body burns a higher percentage of fat compared to carbohydrates such as stored muscle glycogen and blood glucose for fuel. However, focusing solely on training in this zone is not supported by scientific evidence and can be counterproductive for those seeking meaningful fat loss and improvements in body composition. Fat loss and body composition change are more complex and require a broader, more integrated approach. What is the science behind the fat burning zone and the breakdown of fat and carbohydrate at different exercise intensities to produce energy? It's important to understand the crossover concept, which describes the relative balance between carbohydrate and fat metabolism during sustained exercise, such as aerobic or cardiovascular training. At rest and during exercise at low to moderate intensities, fat serves as the main substrate for generating energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. During high-intensity exercise, increases in muscle glycogen breakdown and the recruitment of more type 2 muscle fibers promote a shift to carbohydrate as the predominant substrate for producing energy in the form of ATP. The crossover point is the exercise intensity where fat and carbohydrate utilization intersect as the energy produced from fat decreases and the energy from carbohydrate increases. Beyond this crossover point, further increases in power are met with further increases in carbohydrate utilization and decreases in fat oxidation or burning. An interesting adaptation to long-term aerobic endurance training is that the body becomes more efficient at burning fat at higher exercise intensities, and this helps to spare carbohydrate in the form of muscle glycogen and shifts that crossover point to the right on the graph. So, it is true that at lower exercise intensities, the body uses a higher percentage of fat for energy compared to carbohydrates. During aerobic activities such as walking, slow jogging, or light cycling, fat contributes a larger proportion of the fuel used. In contrast, as exercise intensity increases, such as during running, interval training, or weightlifting, the body begins to rely more on muscle glycogen breakdown, which is stored carbohydrate, because it provides energy in the form of ATP at a faster rate. However, this does not mean that low-intensity exercise burns more fat in total than high-intensity exercise. The key distinction is between percentage of fat used versus total fat calories burned. The percentage of fat burned is not the most important factor for weight loss. The total number of calories burned is what drives fat loss. Low-intensity exercise in the fat-burning zone burns fewer calories per minute than high-intensity exercise. To achieve the same calorie expenditure, you must exercise much longer at low intensity. For example, depending on a person's age, weight, sex, fitness level, and other factors, walking for 1 hour may burn about 400 calories, with a high percentage of those calories coming from fat. while running for 1 hour at a higher intensity may burn 800 calories, with a lower percentage of those calories coming from fat. The run burns more total calories during the same time frame, and this contributes more significantly to a caloric deficit, which is the primary driver of fat loss. It is essential to understand that fuel usage during exercise is not the same as fat loss. Just because fat is predominantly used as a fuel source to make ATP during low to moderate intensity exercise does not mean that it results in a net reduction of body fat. The body constantly shifts between fat and carbohydrate use depending on exercise intensity, exercise duration, nutrition, and fitness level. What matters most is overall energy balance. How many calories are consumed versus how many calories are burned or expended over time. Weight loss is fundamentally about creating a caloric deficit, burning more calories than you consume. Now, let's further examine the limitations of low to moderate intensity fat burning zone training for weight loss. The first limitation is lower total caloric expenditure. Low intensity exercise simply does not burn as many calories per minute as moderate or high intensity activities. For busy people with limited time to train, this makes fat burning zone workouts inefficient. A person walking at 3.5 miles per hour may burn 4 to 6 calories per minute, while someone who is jogging or cycling vigorously may burn 10 to 15 calories per minute. Over the course of weeks and months, this difference in calorie expenditure adds up significantly. So if you only have 20 or 30 minutes to exercise over your lunch break, which type of training would be more efficient and burn more calories? The second limitation with low to moderate intensity fat burning zone training is the minimal excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also known as EPOC, or the quote afterburn effect. EPOC is the volume of oxygen consumed during the minutes to hours immediately after exercise ends, which is above that normally consumed at rest. After performing high-intensity exercise, EPOC is greater compared to low-intensity exercise, and this contributes to additional calorie burn after the workout ends as the body returns to its normal resting state. High-intensity training elevates metabolism for hours after the session is over due to physiological recovery needs such as lactate clearance, glycogen replenishment, phosphocreatine and ATP replenishment, and hormone normalization. Low-intensity exercise leads to very little EPOC, resulting in fewer total calories burned overall. The third limitation of low-intensity fat-burning zone cardiovascular exercise is that it does not provide a stimulus strong enough to maintain or build lean muscle mass, which is essential for a healthy metabolism. Muscle tissue is metabolically active and contributes to a higher resting metabolic rate. Losing weight through cardiovascular exercise alone often results in the loss of both fat and muscle, leading to a decrease in resting metabolic rate and making future fat loss harder to achieve and maintain. The fourth limitation is the risk of adaptation and plateaus. The human body is remarkably efficient. When subjected to the same low-intensity exercise routine repeatedly, it adapts by reducing the caloric expenditure or energy cost of the activity. Over time, this adaptation leads to a plateau where weight loss stalls, even if exercise duration remains the same. To break through plateaus, one must increase intensity, duration, or variety, something fat-burning zone workouts inherently lack. The fifth limitation is individual variability. Fat burning rates and the optimal zone for fat oxidation vary widely between individuals. Generic fat burning zones on gym equipment may not reflect your personal physiology. There is a significant overlap between the fat burning and aerobic zones, suggesting that training for fat oxidation and aerobic or cardiovascular fitness can be achieved simultaneously with a varied program comprised of a mixture of low to moderate intensity and high intensity training. The sixth and final limitation I can think of is misleading gym equipment and marketing. Many exercise machines display a fat burning zone that can mislead users into thinking this is the most effective approach for weight loss, ignoring the importance of total energy expenditure and post-exercise effects such as EPOC. What about training at intensities above the fat burning zone? What roles do high-intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, and resistance training play in contributing to fat loss? Let's explore these individually. HIIT involves alternating brief periods of intense effort, such as sprinting, jumping, or vigorous cycling, with brief rest periods or low-intensity activities, such as walking, for recovery. HIIT is highly effective for reducing body fat, improving insulin sensitivity, and increasing cardiovascular fitness. It also burns more calories in a shorter period of time, promotes greater EPOC, enhances both aerobic and anaerobic fitness, and improves metabolic flexibility, which is the ability to switch efficiently between fat and carbohydrate metabolism. These are great benefits, but if you have not been engaging in any aerobic cardiovascular exercise, it is important to build an initial base level of fitness and endurance before trying HIIT. I recommend performing 4 to 8 weeks of consistent low to moderate intensity aerobic exercise sessions before engaging in HIIT training. Aim for 30 minutes per day of brisk walking, progressing to jogging 5 days per week over this initial 4 to 8 week time frame. HIIT will be extremely difficult and you will fatigue rapidly if you have not built an aerobic base of fitness by performing low to moderate intensity training first. How about resistance training? Weightlifting and body weight resistance exercises are essential for enhancing body composition by building and preserving muscle mass, increasing resting energy expenditure, and improving insulin sensitivity, which can help reduce fat storage. Incorporating resistance training workouts 2 to 4 times per week can significantly enhance fat loss outcomes and prevent muscle degradation that often accompanies weight loss when cardiovascular exercise is performed alone. Remember that weight loss depends on being in a caloric deficit and not on fuel type. The foundational principle of weight loss is creating a caloric deficit, expending more energy than what is consumed. Whether your body burns carbohydrates or fats during exercise is secondary to the total amount of calories burned. A person could stay in the fat-burning zone for an hour and still gain fat if they eat in a caloric surplus. Conversely, someone could rely primarily on carbohydrate oxidation during HIIT or resistance training and still lose fat, provided they maintain a consistent calorie deficit over time. It is the energy balance over days, weeks, and months, and not the moment-to-moment fuel source used during a single exercise session that determines overall fat loss. So what are my practical recommendations for reducing body fat and improving body composition? For optimal results in fat loss and physical health, I recommend a multifaceted approach. Start by changing your dietary habits and dialing in your nutrition. Focus on eating whole, minimally processed foods. Consume plenty of protein-rich foods such as eggs, meat, and fish, and eat lots of whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and fiber. This will help to promote a feeling of satiety, so you will be less apt to overeat and consume extra calories. It's vital that you create a sustainable caloric deficit through appropriate portion control and macronutrient balance. As for cardiovascular exercise, you can combine different intensities in your weekly exercise routine, including both long duration, low to moderate intensity sessions, and short duration, high intensity workouts. This helps to maximize calorie burn, improve heart health, and maintain variety so you do not become overtrained, get injured, or become bored with your exercise routine. Use the fat burning zone as a tool for building endurance or for recovery, but not as the sole method for fat loss. Consistent strength training should also be performed to build and maintain muscle mass and to support metabolic health and improve appearance. Recovery from exercise is often overlooked, but very important. Prioritize sleep, hydration, and stress management to support hormonal balance and recovery from training sessions. Lastly, your exercise program should utilize progressive overload and variation. Continuously challenge your body with new stimuli to prevent adaptation and promote consistent progress. To drive home some of the points I've made in this video, I want to use myself as an example. Let's compare the calories burned by me, a 170-pound male, during 2 different 30-minute exercise sessions performed on separate days. The first 30-minute session is a lower intensity fat burning zone workout performed at 60 to 70% of my maximum heart rate. And the second 30-minute session is higher intensity training at 70 to 85% of my maximum heart rate. At my weight of 170 pounds, performing a low intensity exercise session like brisk walking at say 3 to 4 miles per hour typically burns about 140 to 180 total calories in 30 minutes. About 60 to 70% of these calories come from fat at that intensity. If I use the middle of that range, which is 65%, and multiply it by 140 calories, I would burn approximately 91 fat calories walking at 3 miles per hour for 30 minutes. If I take 65% and multiply it by 180 calories, I would burn approximately 117 fat calories walking at 4 miles per hour for 30 minutes. For the higher intensity exercise session, jogging or interval training at my weight typically burns about 300 to 400 total calories in 30 minutes. About 35 to 45% of these calories come from fat at that intensity. I'll use the middle of that range, which is 40%, for calculating fat calories burned. 40% multiplied by 300 calories equates to 120 fat calories burned, and 40% multiplied by 400 calories equals 160 fat calories burned. So, during 30 minutes of higher intensity jogging or interval training, I will burn between 120 to 160 fat calories. To summarize, my higher intensity training session burns 2 to 3 times more total calories than the lower intensity fat burning zone training session in the same amount of time. Despite a lower percentage of calories burned from fat, the absolute total number of fat calories burned during higher intensity exercise is greater than lower intensity fat burning zone training. This makes higher intensity workouts more effective for both total calorie and fat loss in a 30-minute exercise session. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it informative. The fat burning zone is an oversimplified and often misunderstood concept that does not hold up as an effective standalone strategy for fat loss or improving body composition. While it has some merit for beginners or active recovery, relying exclusively on low-intensity exercise limits the potential for meaningful and sustained results. A more effective and science-backed approach involves combining caloric control, high-intensity cardiovascular exercise, and resistance training to maximize fat loss, preserve lean muscle, and promote overall health. Understanding and applying the broader principles of exercise physiology and energy balance allows individuals to achieve their fat loss goals more efficiently, safely, and sustainably. If you have questions for me about this video or the KU Exercise Science Program, send an email to jtaylor@ku.edu or call 913-897-8516. And as always, thanks for watching Fitness Facts.